Hey everybody, today we're talking with Rory Miller, retired corrections officer, international man of mystery, and best-selling author on subjects about communication in conflict and surviving violent encounters. If you love what you're doing today, please support us with a like or subscribe or hop on over to the Patreon or the Facebook page and get to know us over there. Let's get on with it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Safest Family on the Block, where knowledge is power. I'm your host, Jason Brick, and with me today is the infamous Rory Miller. Rory is a longtime veteran of safety and martial arts. He is the author of several books on violence and self-defense, including Meditations on Violence, Facing Violence, and Principles-Based Instruction. He's studied martial arts, concentrating in classical jiu-jitsu and police defensive tactics since 1981. He's a veteran of the Metropolitan Jail System. He's worked as a corrections deputy, sergeant, and a contractor advising the Iraqi federal corrections system. He has served as a member and leader of a corrections emergency response team, designed and taught classes, including crisis communication with mentally ill and emotionally disturbed, defensive tactics, and conflict simulation. Since he left Iraq in 2009, Rory has taught conflict communication and self-defense in 20 countries. He's the author of a book by that name, Conflict Communication, which is a game changer. It's kind of a spiritual successor to verbal judo of the 80s in a lot of ways, taking those concepts and adding a bit more science and everything we've learned since verbal judo was put on in the 80s. But thank you very much for coming on today, Rory.
Wow. You were able to read that whole bio without your eyes moving at all. It was weird.
Well, it's right here directly below my camera.
You watch people, it's the people that work teleprompters and don't know how to do it. They look shifty because their eyes are following it. So it looks like they can't make eye contact.
It's been driving me nuts. Yeah, if you see some of my other videos, you'll see me going.
Yeah.
And I finally found the sweet spot.
Nice.
And that kind of awareness for body language is exactly the kind of thing you're on to talk to us about today. We've had a couple of other guests come on to talk about being aware and developing some reflexes and skills for awareness. But one of the issues is that we've got a few people who are, they grew up in a rough part of town, they spent a long time in the military or in the police, and they've developed those habits and skills. But most of our viewers are suburban parents who don't live at risk, where you spent your career in an environment where in one of your books you describe it as your job was to get into 2 to 3 fights a day.
When I was bad at it,
Yeah.
I got better at communication. That went way, way, way down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you're here to talk a bit about how we can be aware of threats incoming, do proper threat assessment, and that sort of thing.
I was going to hit a little bit different because my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But I want to rant because I do that. So there's a bunch of stuff going on in threat assessment right now, and a lot of it there are a bunch of new books on body language, and I've been reading them. They're all rehashed stuff from the 70s. If you were paying attention to the original body language in the 70s, it's all the same stuff. But the actual rant, I picked up a book on interrogation from the American, was it Intelligence War College or whatever the hell, but it theoretically is everything we know about interrogation scientifically, and it was horrible. It was incredibly stupid. Because one of the things in there, they have this, they have a study proving that experienced detectives are no better at detecting lies than college students. But the thing is, and this is the nature of experiment college, you take a random group of people in there, you tell them, make 4 statements, have one of them be a lie. You're paying them for it. They're volunteering to do it. It's for science. They aren't going to go to jail if they get caught. They aren't going to get any bad consequences. And if they did have any internal issues on lying, it's been told this is for science, it's okay. People don't detect, you can't detect truth or lies, you detect tension. And if they set up the experiment deliberately to remove all fear of getting caught, then yeah, no one can tell your level of fear of getting caught if there's no fear of getting caught. And the other thing that got me about that book is nowhere in there this entire book, everything we know, did they mention corroboration? Corroboration is the most important, because one of the first things I have to do in an interview, an interview in my book is a little different than interrogation. I want to catch you in a lie early. I have enough information I can set you up with questions so you lie. And when I catch you, even if you know I'm not going to beat you and you probably aren't going to go to prison, you're still worried about getting caught. And so that sets the baseline for the tension. So it's one of those things that these experts never mention corroboration. It's one of the things you look for significant negatives. If something you know is important isn't there, then the person doesn't know what they're talking about. If anyone's talking about how to do damn near anything, they don't mention logistics, they've never done it. So like that. The other thing in there was they mentioned something called the Pareto Curve, and I looked it up, and it's this huge complex thing over a whole bunch of mathematics. They were doing it really specific, but they had this graph of, in any negotiation, the answer is going to be somewhere here on the curve, which they were calling the Pareto Curve. And have you read Never Split the Difference?
No, I have not.
Highly recommended.
Okay.
It's a fantastic book. It's coming from an FBI negotiator. A bunch of tactics in there. I kind of wish I'd read it before Conflict Communications. I probably would have bothered to write Conflict Communications.
Note to self.
But one of the things in there is that the minimum acceptable answer in a hostage negotiation is, I get everything I want, you get nothing you want. You can't sit there, and that's why it's called split the difference. Like, oh, you keep half the hostage, give me half, we'll call it good. You have to get all of them out, none of them hurt, and the bad guy goes to prison. None of these are things that he wants. So the minimum acceptable answer in real life was impossible by academic standards. And that's just one of the things that completely, the science, the research, and then what actually happens in the real world a lot of the time aren't even in the same universe. So sorry, I had to rant on that. So kind of what I wanted to talk about here was personal threat assessment, which is not so much people right now in situational awareness, people are focusing on the world around them. And there's a lot of hand wavy stuff. It's like, figure out what normal is. And then if there's deviation from normal, take a look at it. No one ever tells you how to set a baseline and find out what normal is. So I actually wanted to go the other level, which is what kind of crime are you most likely to be targeted for? Because if that's what you're going to be targeted, you are a athletic guy. I don't want to say middle-aged, you're almost to middle-aged. Athletic guy who moves well and pays attention. What do you really have to worry about? You do not have to worry about being kidnapped. You don't have to worry about being thrown in a van for some kind of horrible satanic ritual. Yeah, I mean, the list, the most that you have to worry about, with a couple exceptions, is maybe a mugging if you're on a weekday where you aren't paying attention and you're limping. And so I want to start with that. I want to start with you, but we kind of need some background so that we're using the same language. Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you've read some of the stuff I read. So I talk about social and asocial. I have to do a lot of disambiguation here because as far as I know, I started using those words, but other people have interpreted them different ways. So there's one interpretation out there that social, when you're talking, the minute it goes hands-on, it's asocial. That doesn't work for me. There's another one, and this is easy to confuse, is it's about your goal. So if it's about social, then you want a reputation. If it's about asocial, you want resources or fun. And that's the easiest one to fall into, and I did for a long time. But the definition I use is affordances. Affordances it was a new term for me not that long ago. I guess it's been like 5 years now, but I still say that because it was paradigm shifting. But how you see something, how you see it, controls what you can do with it. So for me in the social, asocial, if I'm social, I'm thinking you as a human. And everything I do is going to be a form of communication. So I fight humans. I argue, I bully, I have this whole list of stuff. When you're asocial, I'm just thinking you have a piece of meat to use. And that opens up an entirely different set of affordances. And this is one of the reasons why fighters so often get absolutely beaten by hunters, because the ritual's not there, the communication's not there. When you're fighting, you subconsciously give the other person a turn because it is communication. When it's hunting, you never give the other person a turn. They're just a meat problem to solve. So when I think about social and asocial, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
If you try to deal with someone who's looking at you asocially from a social standpoint, it not only will it backfire, but it'll be used against you. Not will it fail, but it'll backfire, it'll be used against you. Because they're humans too. They know the human games. They're just choosing not to play them right now. So, so the social asocial breakdown, 3 basic types of asocial. If someone has their mind altered, they're so terrified, they're so panicked, psychotic break, bad drug reaction, an unexpected schizophrenic episode, like adult onset schizophrenia, they're playing in the same sandbox as you. They're thinking entirely different. When someone's in that panic mode, even if you're trying to help them, they won't see you as helping them. And so the usual example I use is a drowning person. You don't swim up to them and try to calm them down. So first asocial, second asocial, someone wants something, resources. And this is the hunter for resources. And usually in our culture, it's an addiction that they're trying to feed. And at that point, one of my friends refers to when he was in that mode, he considered people to be walking ATMs. They were something that he would get his money out of when he needed them. And the third level is someone that's seeing you as a toy. So they have toy affordances and they just want to have fun with you. So getting into these, most people have never dealt with people that are doing this physically, but they've dealt with people that are doing this emotionally all the time. There are some people that just enjoy fucking with people. And they don't see them as people when they're doing it. And if they did, they're just as big bullies as whoever they're trying to get back at in their childhood. So cool for that.
Absolutely. It sounds that's very much, I think a lot of our viewers have seen that in a light version on the Facebook, where they get in an argument with someone who's wrong on the internet and then realize that person is it's almost a video game for them. You're not engaging in any meaningful way. You're not going to win this conversation because they're playing for different rules. And then and then our viewers can kind of extrapolate that to the more severe aspects of emotional abuse, physical abuse, attacks, muggings, murder, etc.
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is assuming that people think the way that they think. And so if I'm in my social mode and if I can just find a way to find the connection with you, we can be friends. And the other person is seeing you as a toy that's fun to poke to see what it does. There's no connection there, and there never will be, because they aren't seeing you that way. You have to, and if you think about 2 of those in a relationship and what that turns into, horrific. The social violences, they have different motives, and this is most social violence is about status, or about rules enforcement, or about whether you're a member of the tribe or not, or about whether that's your place in the tribe. So status, the monkey dance, which I assume we'll go over a little bit. So what you're looking at, it's scripted, ritualistic, designed not to get people hurt. It's usually over status. Sometimes it's over territory. So it's are you trying to prove I'm the bigger monkey, or that's my chair? Were you looking at my woman? Okay. So status, protocols. That's not the way we act around here. That's not what we do around here. So I may have to teach you a lesson. Again, most of these are verbal most of the time. If you're in a violent subculture, that one can be violent. The membership, you aren't one of us. You are not allowed to speak here. This is not for you. And you're seeing this in Portland now, you know, with the riots and the black guy with the MAGA hat who got stabbed. He was not one of them. Okay. Outsiders get jacked a lot. And within that membership, there's a territory which can be stuff over people, but also process. And this is one for people who work in office. If you just want to see someone, and this is going into that trolling, being an asshole. But if you ever want to see someone flip out, call IT and tell me you installed your own software and it's not working right. You are the company tribe, you aren't a member of that sub tribe. That's not allowed. Okay, so the motives, but within those, the basic patterns are that the monkey dance, which we talked about. Group monkey dance is a group of people getting together to beat the shit out of an individual. And there's a social version of that because hunting is bonding. And so when you get packs, usually of young men out to do dangerous shit and hurt people and smell blood, it's not about the prey. It's about the bonding within the group. When they're looking at their target, that target's not a human being. The image I use for that is a pack of hyenas going after a gazelle. There's nothing the gazelle can say that's going to calm them down. Okay, everything sounds like bleeding. And within a violent subculture, if you break the rules, sometimes they will just have a beating party on your body. And everyone wants to participate because they want to be seen as a part of the group. They don't want to see that maybe they were part of whatever you did that was wrong. And there's a book that described two of these in great detail. I can't remember the title right now. So, too many concussions. All you people out there don't have concussions. They come back and get you later. And the last one of these, of the social ones, is very relatively rare. It only happens, as far as I know, in criminal subcultures where you want a reputation. And the reputation you want is we call it lakey or local or crazy, or in the UK they call it hard. But it's the idea of being not just violent, but unpredictably violent. So you set up a monkey dance. Monkey dance has predictable steps, and you skip the steps. You call for an education. You do that need, or we don't do that here. I'm going to. You apologize later. We could kick your ass, and you apologize. I'm going to kick your ass anyway. I'm not good. So, but unless you're hanging around with criminals and insecure criminals who want a reputation, that's really rare. So good. I feel like I'm giving you a class instead of talking. You said this is going to be a conversation, but I'm just.
This is exactly what our folks need to hear, and that's a great point that you just made about if you're hanging out with criminals, you're exposed to some kinds of violence that you otherwise wouldn't. And as parents, one of our main jobs is let's not hang out with criminals if we got kids to take care of.
One of my friends, Randy King, has a daughter, and he says the entire responsibility as a parent is to keep her off the pipe and off the pool. Yeah. Don't want your kids being addicts or strippers. Just you don't.
No, you do not.
So, so the last thing I want to do, because I want to hit this from the criminal's point of view, which is what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah.
And then talk about places, and then talk about you, and then maybe talk about some red flags for relationships.
Very cool.
Four-way, because it's a circle, or not a circle. It's interlocking triangles. It's a Venn diagram. You need a criminal. A criminal's going to want something. And that's again, it's not a lot of random crime. Just because you didn't see it coming doesn't mean it was random. So you got a criminal, you got you, and you got a place. If the criminal's not there, nothing bad's going to happen. If you're not there, nothing bad's going to happen. If you're both there, but you don't represent anything the criminal wants, it's not going to happen. And depending on the type of violence, like the social violence mostly wants an audience. The asocial, the audience magically turns into witnesses. Social tends not to want witnesses. So that's one of the things. And again, there are exceptions because there's 7.5 billion people in the world. So somebody somewhere is going to do something that shouldn't happen, but it's going to happen. So criminals tend to have subtypes or target types. Some of the things, and this is one of the things. Martial athlete is on only one on almost no one's list of my target types.
Mhm.
There's a very special subgroup of processed predators that found out at some point they like beating up big guys, and if they set them up by pretending to do a monkey dance, you can almost always take out a big guy because you'll almost always have surprise. So it's but super small, but unless, again, they tend to hang out in bars, they tend to hang out with other criminals, they tend to.
Mhm.
So
I think most people who've worked club security for long enough have recognized a version of that, and that the little guy who always starts shit with a bouncer.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's safe with the bouncer because you know he's
Yeah.
a professional who's not going to hurt you too bad, and
Mhm.
and the little guy has a great payoff because he gets points for heart, win or
Mhm.
lose.
Yeah.
And a bouncer beating up a guy half his size doesn't get jack shit for that.
Yeah.
So, but okay, so most criminals have a type that they look at, and this is what kind of criminal is going to be looking at me. It's I've got tons of gray now. I travel a lot, so I fit the profile of an out-of-town businessman,
Mhm.
which makes a good profile for criminals because if I get mugged for $200 or $300, am I going to travel cross country to testify? Am I going?
Yeah. No,
Right.
it's not worth it. It's going to cost you more than $200 to get there.
Right. So I'm a super safe target for that. For most of the other stuff, not as much. Right.
Mhm.
Um, I'm too old for the monkey dance. I am very polite and respectful, especially when I don't know the rules. You know, I tend to listen more than I talk. Not that you're seeing that in this particular interview, but in real life, you know, so I don't hit most of the profiles. So there's a who. Whoever their who is congregates in one place. If someone has a thing for athletic women, then they jogging trails, right? Someone wants a kid, playgrounds. It's so there is a place no matter who your who is. If you're pretending to be a criminal, I really encourage you to think like a criminal. Pick your target, figure out where they congregate. Um, so who and where are the first two things they have to solve? The third one is where most people start getting into self-defense advice, which is they'll have not all of us do this. So your target is out of town businessmen. You're at the convention center bar. There are going to be a bunch of them there. And then you start looking at the behaviors to say, this is the easiest one here. And this is where we get into self-defense advice of, you know, walk with purpose, look like you have something to do, carry yourself well, make eye contact. That's where that list comes in. It's trying to stay off. I call it the ripe list. But I usually work at the other direction. If I'm a predator, who would be the easiest person in here to take? You know, who's the smallest, who's the weakest? And a lot of this is emotional. Pleasers are very easy because they don't want to say no. They don't want to be rude. And so you say, hey, come on, let's go over here where it's quiet. And they don't want to, but they don't want to be rude. So it's not just physical, it's emotional. But if you can get the blind drunk alone, pleaser who's timid, it's okay. So once you've identified who you take, just don't be that person. Honestly, I think that the best advantage of martial arts has nothing to do with the fighting skills. It's when you move better and you're comfortable in your body and you have some discipline, you're way less likely to be picked for most things. So once they pick their target, the next thing they have to do is get them alone. Isolate, because for most of the types of crime, and if you run this back, it's like, you know, if you're in the monkey dance, if you're in that, you know, young male who still goes out and gets drunk, then that's different. It's like, I don't want to present a reputation. I want to look like they'll lose more status if they go against me than they will. I want to blah blah, and they won't want to get me alone. They'll want to get an audience, but they'll want to get a receptive audience. So it changes for type of the crime, but for the really horrible stuff, they'll want to get you alone. In order to get you alone, and these again are tactics that the best way to recognize them is to use them. So play bad guy as much as you can. There's there's one I usually don't talk about, which is just snatch. It's like, fuck you, I don't care. I grab you off the street in broad daylight.
Mm.
Doesn't happen much in the U.S., but and this is one of the reasons why when you travel, you have to check the country profile, because they're a place where kidnapping is a minor industry.
Mm.
And the police are corrupt. They won't investigate, and you just have that list. You actually do have to worry about just a forcible snatch. Very rare here. Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of things as a parent, as a family man, that a lot of the things are just kind of unconscious or automatic parts of who I am, middle class, overweight, middle-aged guy with a couple of kids in tow that are all in many ways insulative for us here, that prevent me from having the drunk guy looking for status. He's not going to pick on a dad with kids. Kids' presence makes getting us alone more difficult. These are advantages here, but a lot of those same things, if I end up in, say, Guatemala or Laos, I'm American, which means I'm astonishingly wealthy in comparison to the baseline income there. I've got my kids with me, which means that I'm less likely to take certain kinds of risks to protect myself. And so a lot of what we're talking about could be true while we're here in the States, but traveling is a whole different ball of wax.
Yeah,
and has different rules.
Absolutely. And one of the, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but one of the most dangerous things you can do is to go to a place and insist that they follow your rules, their house. Because that it's stupid, it's rude, and makes everyone want to teach you a lesson. So Gimlo, so we talked about snatch, intimidation. There's a guy named Nash who went over all of the UK's stats for a couple years, and according to him, the most common attack on a woman was simply to show her up and take her by the upper arm and say, "Come with me." So intimidation. And you can intimidate a third party. Your kids are upstairs. I'm going to do to you or to them. You choose. The luring, offering somebody something they want, and there's a temple that's not on the tourist maps. I can show you where it is. Okay, and if and I don't want to go too. I kind of do. But if you're a middle-aged guy in a convention bar and suddenly two girls start hitting on you, it's a trap. Okay, it's not right. You sit there, you might be feeling, oh yeah, I still got it. No, you don't. Okay, it's a trap. Tricking. Your mommy and daddy were in a terrible accident. They sent me to come pick you up. I'm from the hospital. I'm looking for my puppy. We have the huge list. One sideways on that. Someone did a study. Have you already talked about? And I can find the study if you need it. But if you haven't already talked about it on the podcast, someone did that with second graders. Told them specifically about if someone says, "I'm looking for my puppy," don't trust them. It's not right. You tell the teacher right away. And then let them out to recess and had someone walk around with a leash and say, "Hey, help me front." And not a single kid, all the kids fell for it.
Yeah. I feel like Gavin DeBecker did that or did something similar to that. He talks about it in Gift of Fear.
I can't remember where I read it, but I went back to the original study and it was there. But that's one of the things, one of the hardest things with kids, totally off on a tangent now. There's some stuff you can't get till your brain's ready for it. You can't get it. The brain's not fully mature till about 25, and I personally much later than that, because I was still way stupid. Well, I still am. It's still not done. Still pink on the inside. But that's when there's some stuff you can't. And same, we know from teaching, there's some stuff you can tell them blue in the face, but they have to actually experience it. Like how many told you to protect your joints because you're going to really regret it later.
Yeah. It's what is it? Who was it that said some people or most people have to piss on the electric fence for themselves?
Or your cousin to do it because that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so lure, trick. The other two tactics are wait and follow. If you've got a specific type, like we talked about. You got to think for athletic women, find an isolated place on a jogging trail. There's also an intelligence gathering aspect. If you're going for a specific target, there will be an interview to gather intelligence where to wait. And Ted Bundy's the most obvious. He would strike up a conversation with a girl at the library at the university. Every first conversation at university has 3 questions. Where you're from, what's your major, which dorm are you in? Okay. And it's for reasons, but because it's in every conversation, no one blinks when they answer it. So if someone at the library has asked you which dorm you're in, he now knows exactly the loneliest place to wait between here and there, which is what Ted Bundy would do. And the other one, just follow him, find somebody and follow him. So within these, and going back to process, so if you guys remember who your primary target area, where those congregate, how to tell if they're right. Those 3 elements of this are passive, unless you're, the ideal is to stay off the list. Don't be on anybody's target list. If you are, don't go and if you can help at the place where they congregate. If you have to go there, don't get helpless. Don't be helpless. Those are passive. And no crime has been committed unless you're super alert on who's scoping you out in the place. You won't notice anything until they try to get you alone. So that's the first thing that the bad guy does. It's active. So that's the first place where you have to go in and recognize when someone is trying to get you alone. Recognize when someone is trying to milk you for information. Again, the best way to practice this practically is to get people alone. See how many people you can sit there and say, can you show me where, and see if they'll walk to a place of your choosing. Milking people for information. People give up information all the time. Make a practice of holding a conversation where you gather as much information as possible and give as little as possible. Be a listener way more than you are a talker. We have this super weird reciprocity thing, which if you give me something, I have to give you back. If I invite you to my place, you invite me to your place. You know. But one of those is if I share a personal story, you feel compelled to share a personal story. If I share one of my vulnerabilities, you feel compelled to share a vulnerability. It's a powerful tactic.
One of the, I think again, it's gifted fear refers to that as loan sharking, where he'll do you a favor or share personal information,
but the one
with
thing
the expectation of reciprocity.
Yeah, one thing he missed in that was, because I hadn't realized there's the emotional reciprocity, there's the personal stories until much later. So, and the next one, once they get you isolated, they're going to try to control you. If it's psychological, it's going to be, trying to make you afraid to fight or make you worried that there will be worse consequences or keep you in your social scripts. If it's a physical domination, it's not going to be a fight. They've got you alone. They can pick the position your body is in, the timing, overwhelming force, weapon. And this is one of the things what I do when people start talking about self-defense versus fighting. Self-defense is you're a 110-pound woman, you're outweighed by 100 pounds, and you're semi-drunk, bent over trying to get your keys in your car door, and someone gets hit you from behind with a weapon. Twice your size. What self-defense solution do you have for that? So, because that's the baseline physical part. And there's, it's not a happy situation. And there's not a lot you can learn in your weight class with someone who starts 2 long paces away front of you under bright lights. It just doesn't translate as well as we like it does.
And that also kind of goes out into martial arts instruction in general. In fact, one of the other episodes for this season is with I think she's 99 pounds and is very proud of being just over 5 foot tall karate instructor, about how so many people who teach martial arts are martial athletes, large men, often police or military, who have no business telling a 100-pound woman how it is in a self-defense situation, because everything's different.
There's no One of my friends had and she's tiny, but she said my baseline opponent is twice my size and 3 times my strength.
Mm-hmm. So
And
it's a whole different set of considerations, whole different set of tactics.
there's a video I saw the other day. I don't normally watch videos. I hate watching videos.
Mm-hmm.
But I popped this one. Is about 15 minutes of a tiny karate woman against an MMA guy.
Mm-hmm.
And she was out fighting him every step of the way. She bloodied his nose right off. But she didn't have the size to put him down. And he was, I can't think that he was very good or had much of a turn record, because he was just a big wimp, because he didn't have the heart to close. But just, it was one of those, a really, really extreme difference in skill was enough to fight him off, but not enough to make up for size and put him down. And that's one of the things you have to fight entirely different when you're that far matched. And fight is even the wrong word. You have to assassinate. It's
and give yourself permission to fight dirty, which is another thing that the predators take advantage of, that we are reticent to maim, kill, harm for just long enough for them to get the upper hand.
Yeah, you have to change your affordances, and that's it's one of those. No one's going to fight a 1,500-pound steer, but somehow, when it's butchering time, the steer never wins, never, ever, ever. Maybe because we're smart enough not to fight it, and we just fucking butcher it. And when you go into that mindset with people, it's a very different world. So in the fighting mindset. Okay, so that's trying to set things up from the criminal point of view, right? So next thing, just really quick, locations. Bad stuff happens in places, obviously. Everything happens in places. But the places where most violence happens, where young men gather in groups, where people get their minds altered. Doesn't always have to be drugs and booze, but it's usually drugs and booze. Where territories are in dispute. And there's an old adage that deep behind enemy lines is not actually that bad. Deep in gang territory is not actually that bad. It's the edges where all the people are getting randomly shot. That's why we call it the front. So it's one of those, when the territory is in dispute, the territories don't have to be real. People shoot each other over football games. Okay. When you get that combination, young men in groups getting their minds altered, you've got a bar. When you got the territories in dispute at the extreme end, you've got, war, but young men in groups, minds altered. You've got football hooligans, okay, soccer hooligans, whatever, where you don't know the rules we talked about already. If you're in a place and you don't know how to behave, keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open. There are a couple of rules like proxemics, how close people stand. Whatever the rules are in that place, stand a little farther away. That's closer is ruder, farther away is always more polite, more deferential. Eye contact, always make slightly less eye contact than whatever the cultural norm is. One of the tricks here is I don't look in people's eyes ever. It looks like I do, but I don't. I look at their mouth. So they sense the full attention, but they don't get the challenge if I look them in the eyes. That they would. And that's a trick. It's really useful. And rate, tone, pitch, and volume. Never be the loudest person in the room. It's almost everything that happens with your voice reads in a certain way. If you talk faster, it reads as fear. Fear is contagious. Other people's adrenaline goes up, it becomes more dangerous. If you're loud, it's read as anger, which is a form of fear. Other people's adrenaline goes up, it gets more dangerous. High-pitched voices read as fear. It gets more dangerous. And this is one of the reasons why, my opinion, no one with a high-pitched voice will ever be a successful crisis negotiator. All right, everyone just needs to calm down. Just calm down. It's going to be okay. Doesn't work for anybody. Rate, tone, pitch, volume. And the last place on the list of dangerous places are lonely places. That's where the predatory stuff happens. If there are no wins, there's an exception. If not an exception, an empty parking garage, which is the scary thing that people throw out. The whole point is it's empty. Empty places are perfect cool. It's a place with 1 or 2 or 3 people working together and no witnesses where it becomes dangerous. Not a lot of crime happening in dark alleys because no one goes down dark alleys. A criminal could starve to death waiting for prey in a dark alley. Locations. The last thing I want to talk about locations, location profile. And this is obvious if people don't think about it. So where is pickpocketing going to happen?
Abroad, it's all the tourist locations. It's all the crowded places, especially folks that someone who doesn't know the hot spots in town is going to congregate.
Right, crowded places.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go to snatch a child?
You're going to go to a school and going to go where the kids are. Like, who's the old bank robber? Why did Dillinger maybe? Why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Why are you at the school? Because that's where the kid is.
Right. So you can just go down. It's, in a Portland suburb on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, what kind of crime are you going to get?
Good God.
Almost nothing, right?
Nothing. There's no one. Everybody's either hungover at home or at church.
Right. So you got, what are the delivery days for, and you get your porch pirates. What are the, there's stuff that, and so this is one reason why people, one of your interviews, you mentioned the color codes. Okay. I hate them with an undying passion. Okay, and the thing I dislike about them is all animals do this. They pay attention if something draws their attention, they check it out if they need to do something. But for some reason, if you start calling those colors and suddenly you're tactical, it's the most useless tits on the board thing. Not only do all creatures do it, but creatures can't help but do it. You don't have to teach people to do that. You just have to say, pay attention. Okay, something draws your attention, check it out. If you need to do something, do something. That's all it ever was. But for some reason, it got weird. So one of the things within this is most people teaching self-defense sell fear. Their marketing is based on fear. If you aren't afraid, you aren't coming to your self-defense class. Okay, that's bullshit. No one's coming to your self-defense class for self-defense. You come to your self-defense class because it's fun. Throwing a big man down the stairs is fucking fun. The camaraderie, the friends that you make. That's why people stay. They may come because they're afraid, but everyone stays because they're having fun. And this is the same thing. I think that people going to Cooper color codes, you've got 2 things. You can't live in condition yellow all the time, it's exhausting. And you must live in condition yellow all the time. Okay. I think that the people looking for danger all the time and are afraid all the time find it exhausting. People who are just paying attention are actually living, and it's energizing. Because I'm not just looking for the scary guy who's wearing a trench coat when it's way too hot and probably has something under it and he's got I'm seeing flowers, I'm seeing the trees leafing out. There's a new kind of bird in the neighborhood. My life is richer and fuller because I'm in condition yellow almost all the time. If I was paranoid,
I never thought of it like that, but condition yellow versus mindfulness, as taught by Thich Nhat Hanh, it should be the same thing.
It is
in a lot of ways.
It's whether you flavor it with fear or joy, but it's the same stuff. And fear is almost always tough. So this attention thing. So places. I think we've got bad guys and locations. So you could go over those lists of types of crime or types of violence and see which ones you're most likely to be targeted for. That's the first step in your personal threat profile. It's hard to be honest because people want their lives to be more exciting than they actually are. Okay, The only thing that I'm worried about on that list is when I'm traveling, and staying, and I normally don't stay um, at travelers hotels, the common one. I usually stay with families or get an Airbnb, so it takes me off that list.
One of the things that I'm hearing over and over, which is really good advice, is about knowing what kind of target you are and then avoiding being that kind of target. Now, families, you have the father or the mother operating alone, or you have the couples and you have the parent with children. And each of those is going to attract a different kind of predator, or maybe not much predator at all, depending. Like a father with children probably doesn't attract a lot of predators because of the danger to reward ratio there. There's not a whole lot of value, and there's going to be some trouble getting to it. Okay, again, of course, here in North America, you get out of the country, it's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, it attracts one type, and it actually attracts one type, and it's not even illegal, so most people don't see it for what it is. But aggressive panhandling. It's because you got your kids, you don't want to look, they'll try to frame it as like you don't want to look cheap in front of your kids, you don't caring in front of your kids, or you don't want to look whatever. But the dynamics to aggressive panhandling and to a robbery, to a mugging, are almost exactly the same, except they back off at a point without the threat.
My solution for that's actually been, I have a hard and fast rule that I talk to my kids about, which is I always have a couple bucks in my pocket to give to any kind of street performer, no matter how terrible they are, to buy roses off the side of the road or whatever. But if they just want money without doing something for it, no. And that's a model that I've taught to my kids. And so I'm not as vulnerable to that. I don't look cheap. I have a principle that I'm upholding.
Yeah.
It's just my solution. Your mileage may vary.
No, it's a great solution. And it's really important that you're talking to your kids about it, because it's that lack of communication. If people don't know the whys, they can't figure it out. And that's very good.
So that's one kind of predator that approaches families. And then of course we were talking originally about as a father operating alone. I think we're most vulnerable, until we start getting the gray on to male on male social violence. We gazed in the wrong direction, thinking about all the trouble at work, and it just happened to be where some asshole was sitting.
And if your brain's not matured, apologizing and walking away doesn't occur to you. That's the thing, the stuff you get hooked into. One of the things I want to finish to you, because I want to throw something in on this, because don't let me forget. So you yourself, if you're small, if you're weak, if you're timid, you have this list of things. If you're this is going to sound super horrible, but if you're a portable sized female, you're at risk for a lot of horrible stuff. It's still rare in our culture, but you're more at risk for more horrible things than any martial athlete that you can imagine. And there's one of the things with the predators that work from there, some of them have tastes. They have definite preferences, and it's not logical. So it's not that they're always going to go after the hot one. They may be going after the third grade teacher, the one that looks like the third grade teacher.
Well, look at, again, Bundy's, if you see the photos of all of Bundy's victims, they're almost identical, and they all look a little bit like his mom. So you're not going to be able to know. Yeah,
so you can't sit there and say, I'm not in this profile, or if I dress down. That said, one of the things I tell people, because there's this thing about how you dress doesn't matter, and it absolutely matters. There's no way to draw the attention of only good people. Anything you do that draws attention will draw attention of good and bad people. So, and this is the same thing, there may be no one taken out of the sex crimes. There may be no one in this bar thinking about robbing anybody, but if I pull out a big roll of 20s and start counting them, someone's going to think about it. Anything that draws attention, a certain percentage of people are bad, and there's no way to draw the attention of only good people.
Mm.
So whoever you are, what you represent as an asset that they can take, recognize that. The second, and one of the things within there is a demographic. If you are different than the people around you in any way, you're targeted. It just, one of those people are tribal. When they see something doesn't look like their tribe, it's more dangerous, especially when you get that group of young men who want to do a little bonding. So this is one of the things that can't be taken away. You know, you might be able to hide the fact that you're different for some things, but not for others. So, and this is, it just is. And it's not that it's one group gets targeted by everybody. It's any group will target an individual, or is more likely to. There's some really interesting research. Don't want to go off on another rant, kind of want to. There's a book called The Human Potential for Peace, which is possibly the worst book that I've read. If you could get allergies from straw man arguments, you would not be able to finish the book because you'd be sneezing so hard. It's cherry picking all of human history and prehistory. The guy was able to come up with 30 odd groups that had never gone to war. He had to change the definition of war 3 times in the book in order to get it up to that high a number. And I've had direct experience with 2 of those cultures. And if you told them they were peaceful, they might just kick your ass, because some of them are very proud of some of their wars in the past. But, and at one point he made the thing is, well, they go on raids, but only 25% of the males participate. So that's not really war. And it's like less than 0.5% of the US military. Are you saying that we're 50 times more peaceful than they are? Anyway.
Yeah. But that's not the thought that violence is unfortunately inextricable part of humanity. Well, and you touched on something earlier about clothes not mattering, and about how there is a political through line about how they shouldn't matter, and it shouldn't matter, and it's not fair that it matters, but should and fair and right are not the same thing as is. And especially as parents, we don't have the luxury of taking a stand about what we wish the world was like, because we've got kids to protect. And so we need to stare at what is directly in the eye. Okay,
just a second. I'm focusing down my shirt. I don't know if you can read that because it's faded.
Girl Army Self-Defense?
Yeah, they're LGBTQ plus feminist self-defense collaborative in Oakland. And I evidently am on their very short list of acceptable straight white males.
Oh, excellent.
But the thing I love about them is that because so many of their people are targeted, they are utterly pragmatic. It's one of those, you know, and they did a carbine defense for the House course. Several years ago. It was one of those. I hate guns. I know we all hate guns, but they are a really, really good tool that we all need to know how to use. It's like, I love you guys. You're, and that's like you're talking about with the idea that we can pretend the world is the ideal world comes from a place of such luxury and privilege that it's ridiculous. People that have a lot to lose, people with kids, people who are in demographics that are targeted don't have that fucking luxury, and it is a luxury. So, all right. So the thing I wanted to get on with the human potential for peace, because one of the things that they were talking about, and people talk about this with chimps and whatever, it's like when chimps from other tribes get together and meet, then they don't fight, they kind of sniff around and then they peacefully go away. And it turns out anthropologists looked at it as that's absolutely true, unless they outnumber each other 5 to 1, in which case it's a slaughter. They just fucking kill them. It's anything less than 5 to 1, there's a chance our people will get hurt. But the line at 5 to 1, fuck you, we're killing you.
All right.
And he tracked that through a lot of, anyway. So the demographic thing. your job. A lot of people have jobs that put them at risk. I would not know any of the stuff I know if I hadn't taken that job in the jail.
Mhm.
I would not know any of this. You've done the bouncing. There's stuff that you learned there that you can't learn anywhere else. And that's the thing. If you have a dangerous job, then suddenly a lot of this stuff can come in. The places that you go. This is one of those, don't go to stupid places with stupid people and do stupid things. I got that from Mark Denny. I don't know where he got it from, but that's the basic rule. And it's one of those, if you're going to stupid places, maybe, and again, if you work in a bar, shit's more likely to happen. If you work any kind of public service, you're going to see more different types of people than if you're sitting in a cubicle. I like going to places that are not always smart to go to. Just recognize that your alert level has to go up and you have to take certain precautions. People to hang with. I talked about stupid friends, but sometimes there's no choice. If you've got a family member that has, occasionally his voices tell him to hurt people, you can't necessarily walk away from that. You still have to deal with it. So do you? What are you going to be targeted for by crime? Who are you hanging with? Who are you spending time with? Do you have stupid friends? Do you have a job that's going to put you in dangerous places? Do you go to or through dangerous places on your way to whatever? So that's how I set up the personal threat assessment. So,
and just being aware of the locations that you're going to be in and the people you're going to be with, whether it's the people you're traveling with or the people who are likely to be where you are. And then what are you doing? How are you behaving? Is that likely to attract the attention of a villain? Or is that likely to demonstrate that you're just not worth the effort? Or that what I used to call when I traveled a lot in my 20s was the broke tough continuum.
Okay.
Look like you don't have any money, and what little money you have it's just going to be such a hassle to get it that they're going to go bother somebody else.
Yeah, when it's about money.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like you were saying, there are people who the tough will actually attract because they see you as a trophy to take to get status in the tribe or for their own jollies.
Yeah, and a lot of that is attitude, even more than size and strength. If when you get a small woman who says, "I'm going to cut your face," you think twice. You just do.
Yeah.
The one of the things I didn't put down here under, I hesitate to call it. It doesn't matter how well you know this, how much you trained, how much of anything. If you're a dick, your threat assessment is going to be off because people will hate you just because you're a dick. So that's probably the best self-defense advice. And we usually put it in knife context. The best defense against knife is not being the kind of asshole somebody would want to stab. Because stabbing is almost always personal. And you usually have to work really hard to get stabbed. Don't cheat on drug deals, don't sleep with other people's wife, and don't piss off your wife in the kitchen, and your chance of getting stabbed ever goes almost to zero. And
again, stupid things in stupid places, and the stupid person being yourself.
Yes, don't be the stupid person. If you're that person, then no advice, none of this stuff is actually going to help because the world isn't the problem, you are. And generally, I think one of the universal qualities of jerks is that they aren't self-aware enough to know that they're jerks. So, I'll say cultivate some friends that will tell you that when you're being a jerk. They also are incapable of cultivating friends. So
there you are. Unfortunately, it's like the what I call the Tarantino-Lucas continuum, where you can see in their directing career when they stopped hanging out with anybody who was willing to tell them that they were being an asshole.
Stephen King was really good until he got famous enough that he didn't need editors anymore.
Yeah. And that's why with his work, the Bachman books, the ones he wrote under a pseudonym there after he was established, they were great because he was chasing that again.
Yeah.
He was getting honest feedback for the first time in probably 10 years. and that honest feedback. Now, some very specific things I'm interested in. We talked a lot about, because we're both athletic martial artists, aging, but there it is. Yeah. What are some specific things that, for example, again, that portable-sized woman, that portable-sized mom traveling with her kids, what are some things to specifically look out for? What are some of the things that they can do to make themselves a less attractive target? Because that seems almost like a smorgasbord for a certain kind of criminal.
It is. And there's almost, we want to talk about sending signals, but if you want to go all punk rock and, you're covered with leather and they'll turn off 80%, it'll turn on another 20%. Right. So that's the thing when we get into specific advice. It's, humans are, we're technically troop animals, but when we think of ourselves as pack animals, we're stronger. Traveling together works better for most people. Doing your research, the isolating, there are a whole bunch of things that we do to isolate ourselves. Every time you get in a cab, you're isolating. Every time you call an Uber. One of the things, I want to go over the red flags because I think it might help. Because when we're talking about relationships, there's some stuff to watch for, and some of this might help because one of the ones in there is separation from resources and unnatural acceleration, and those are the two things I think are most important to watch for. But so if anyone has violence in the past, you can expect violence in the future. That's a red flag. If someone has beaten all of their previous relationships, they're going to beat you. Just, and everyone thinks people will change, but the odds that they're going to change with you, that you're going to try something that no one else has tried, pretty slim. Their descriptions of previous relationships is a red flag. If there's a pattern, then you're either part of that pattern or they're going to force you into that pattern. So if someone, and I know you've heard this, is like, oh, we just had this great relationship for like a year and then she just went crazy. And if they say that about every relationship, then it takes about a year to drive you crazy. So the two big ones, unnatural acceleration. And this is one of the things that's especially dangerous with like date rape is the normal courting, I'll use that pattern, is two people meet, there's some attraction, they get together, and then they want to increase privacy and intimacy. Okay. Is that what any rapist wants?
Not at that timeline.
But they don't want to waste time. So in a normal relationship, there will be a point where, it's instead of going out with a group or going on a double date, it's like, how about just us? There's a big red flag when you meet someone at a bar or you're dancing and they say, your friends are dragged, let's go get some air. That's too fast. And it's one of those, if someone is too fast for you and you rein them in, how they respond to your response will tell you most of what you need to know. If someone ignores your no, going back to Gavin Becker, ignoring no is a big red flag. So that unnatural acceleration, and there's a whole huge thing within the self-defense where we're fighting social conditioning of our students all the time. They've been told not to hit, not even to hit back. They've been told, bad people do this. And we have a huge culture of love at first sight and being swept off your feet, which is exactly what one of these bad guys would want, is someone to buy into that. Some of them are socially skilled enough to create it happening. There's a book out there called The Game, which is about the pickup artist community.
Oh yeah, that guy with the obnoxious hat.
I have no idea. One of the people that interviewed me a while ago had been doing some not on this book, but doing some ghostwriting for the guy. And so he sent me a copy of the book because it had so much crossover with ConCom.
Interesting.
And it's one of those. It's a very cold-blooded, deliberate, manipulative pattern for trying to get people's guards down. And everyone should read that to see how it works and start defending against it. Recognize it when someone's trying to manipulate you.
I had a very similar experience with Gavin de Becker's book on the signs that someone's manipulating you, trying to get control, the warning signs of a predator. And I was reading it that at the same time I was reading one of Zig Ziglar's sales books.
Yeah.
And those map almost perfectly to one another.
They do.
Yeah.
That's why I call them the rapport building skills, because bad guys use it for bad purposes, good guys use it for good purposes. The other red flag is, or one of them, separation from resources. If someone doesn't want you to have your own bank account, if someone tries to pull you away from all of your friends, and we do this with kids especially. If anyone ever says, "Don't tell mom or your daddy," tell right away, because that is a very bad man.
Yeah. No adult will ever ask a child to keep a secret that's not like a Christmas present. Yeah. And no adult's going to ask a child for help.
Yeah.
That's yours.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is one of those, but that separation from resources. And one of those, if someone doesn't want you to train, as an example, no one who loves you wants you to be weak. If they want you to be weak, that's not love. They're trying to create codependency maybe, so they can feel like the rescuer all the time. But that's not love. No one who loves you wants you to be weak. They'll want you to have your own skills, your own business, your own whatever. But when you start cutting people out of other people's lives, you're trying to weaken them. You're destroying their network, their safety net. Why would you destroy someone else's safety net unless you wanted them vulnerable? And this is one I will throw out, that anyone that tries to separate you from your resources intends to victimize you.
And that's true. Both in terms of a relationship situation, that if you're a single mom you're stepping into, or we're trying to advise our daughters and sons about dating. And also I can see that mapping to predators on the street, where they try to get you alone, separating you from resources, in that concept.
Absolutely. And it's one of the things, and this is more long-term, this can go into some very dark political ways really quick, but encouraging dependence. If you need me, you can't leave me. There's a really cool book called Narconomics, where some guy, Freakonomics came out, and it was a big smash because they were using economic thinking to explain a bunch of cultural stuff. This guy decided to use the Freakonomics approach on narcotics, and it was very cool. But one of the things that I loved was he was talking about tattooing in the criminal subculture. It's a way to keep your labor costs low, because once you got MS-13 tattooed on your forehead, you can't work for anybody else.
That makes a lot of twisted sense.
Yeah. And it started looking, it's one of those, there are certain things that all people need. We need food, we need shelter, we need medical care, we need ability to defend ourselves, blah, blah, blah. If you're ever dependent on one source for that, that source owns you. And
it's the trouble with monopolies.
Yeah. And then going there, it's like, and making one giant monopoly to control the monopolies is, they tried it in Lord of the Rings. You saw how that worked out. So, there are a couple others. So if someone has no old friends, they're super popular, but they don't have any old friends, it's because they burn their friends. Okay, and it's one of the signs you're dealing with a narcissist or sociopath. If you can't do anything right, they're creating learned helplessness within you to make you weak. And the more sophisticated than that, and this is the last one of the red flags on my list, it's more advanced than you can't do anything right. It's random reward and punishment. So they'll flip out over something, and then they'll bring you chocolate for the same thing a year later. It's making you in a place that you're entirely emotionally unstable. You should gaslighting in here. So you're emotionally unstable in their presence. You can't figure out the pattern. So if you can't figure out the pattern, you can't do anything. And this is an essential element of victim grooming, of how you turn someone into a permanent victim. And
It's also a class part of operant conditioning. Skinner figured that out.
Yeah,
That the random reinforcement is the most effective.
Intermittent, not random.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that Skinner was, if it's you don't know when you'll get rewarded, you'll keep trying to do it.
Yeah.
This is trying to make someone passive. So if you want to make them passive, you have to not reward a specific thing, because that behavior increases. You're trying to make all behaviors. I just do what you tell me, because I know I'm going to get in trouble for anything I do myself. Set that up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's a lot of information, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I try. I just talked for an hour straight. What the hell?
Good. You got it off your chest. Now, this is exactly the kind of information we're looking for. That, because the reason this project is happening is because there's a whole lot of information out there that's operators talking to other operators, right? The tactical crowd, or the operators cashing in on the tactical crowd, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of people who, like news anchors and celebrities, who read an article once and are now giving really bad advice. But there's not a lot of operators talking to civilians stuff out there. And that's the niche I'm trying to fill. And this is exactly the kind of conversation I wanted. So this is exactly what I was hoping for, man. Really appreciate it.
The people that need it most tend not to seek it out.
Yeah.
And when they do, most of the people don't know how to talk to them.
Yeah. Because and like we were talking about with the large athletic karate instructor and the 100-pound woman, there's a certain point at which an operator just doesn't have the context that, something as simple as how quickly you can give yourself permission to light somebody up who's physically threatening you, versus a soccer mom who has literally never punched somebody. Right?
In tactical shooting, just an example, has nothing nothing at all. It's, when you're under close assault, how do you draw from under concealment while you're getting your ass kicked? That's not the same as you get a call on the radio to say, go help the people, and you get to show up, guns drawn, and choose your position.
Rory, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate everything. And we'll have some links to your information, Chiron training, in your books in the show notes for anybody who wants to hear out more from you. Thank you again very much.
Cool. You're fun to talk to, even though you don't have to talk to.
Thanks for watching today. If you loved what you saw, please do hit the subscribe button and the like button. Tell your friends. Click on those links above to go to the full version of this video or another of our shorter synopses. Thanks again. Hope to see you soon.